can I say how delighted I am to be here. And I want to say 3 thank yous before I start. The first is to say thank you to you for inviting me to your conference. This is a great honour for me. 1 or 2 people said it's a great honour to have you here. It's a huge honour for me to be part of your wonderful, vibrant, growing fellowship. My second thank you is thank you for allowing me to address you. I'm going to say a little bit about the big text that you've taken, the theme that you've adopted, God is with us all the time. We're going to come to that in a few minutes. But I want to say that as I prepared for this, and as I prayed and read the scriptures, it has spoken to me. I hope it speaks to you too. Amen. And the third thing I want to do is I want to thank you, and it's very appropriate that this should follow the history chronicle that we've had. I want to thank you for everything you brought to the British Methodist Church. I was minister in a place called Hatfield near St Albans. Anybody from Hatfield? Yay! I was minister there a number of years ago, before many people came from Zimbabwe. It was a good church. I enjoyed being minister. It had young people and older people and those in between. And it sought to serve God in that place. Now, about 4 years ago, I was invited to take their church anniversary. It was 50 years old, the church in Hatfield. And when I got there, it was 75% people from Zimbabwe. And I think that I was proud that the church there had been open and welcoming. I was delighted that those rich gifts were renewing and strengthening the mission of the church. And it had the best choir I have ever heard in the world. Is that true? Methodists talk a lot about connectionalism. Originally, those who were connected with John Wesley, those who chose to work with him and were connected to him. So they were in connection with John Wesley. But we as a church community now across the world, some 80 million of us across the world, we have adopted this idea of connectionalism as a way of being church. We say we are connected to each other because we are connected to God in Jesus Christ. Amen. And because of that, the weak help the strong, the enthusiastic help those who have lost their courage, those who are feeling on the edge are welcomed and strengthened by those who have gifts from God. That's the way we are church. And I think for a time, the British Methodist Church thought in a very narrow way that somehow connectionalism was how the people in Birmingham related to the people in Leeds, related to the people in Scotland. But it's much bigger than that, isn't it? It's worldwide. We are connected worldwide. And you have brought to the British Methodist Church such gifts from God that we are not only more deeply connected, but empowered by God to do God's will. So thank you. I want to turn to this wonderful theme from Isaiah 43 and verse 2. The way you've adapted it for your theme, God is with us
all the time.
All the time.
God is with us.
Okay. Some of my Anglican friends, when they gather together in their synods or in their churches, they will say, "The Lord be with you." Have you heard that?
Yes.
And the response is,
The
Lord be with you. When you say that, it expresses a deep desire, a prayer, a hope that God will be with the person you're speaking to. But you could change it, couldn't you? You could change it just a little bit. You could say, "The Lord is with you." And the response would be,
And also with you.
"Yeah, the Lord is with you."
And also with you.
That's the conviction that we have, isn't it? That God is with us. That God is among us. That God is present here in this place with this group and with this church. We say God is with us, our deep conviction. We move from a prayer, a desire, to affirming what we deeply believe, that God is with us. And we don't say that in a triumphalist or tribal way. We're not saying God's with us, but he's not with you. No, we're not saying that. We're saying something about what we have come to know of God in Jesus Christ. So when Jesus came to the world, one of his names was Emmanuel. God is with us. And that's what we saw in Jesus. In his life and his teaching, his death and his resurrection. We saw that God is with us, God is for us, God is among us, God's love is directed towards us. So we are saying that when we say God is with us all the time, we are expressing a deep, deep conviction of what we have seen in Jesus Christ and what we have felt in God's Spirit, that God is with us. And your text is a wonderful text, isn't it? O Israel, do not fear, I have redeemed you. I have called you by name, you are mine. When you pass through waters, I will be with you. And through rivers, they will not overwhelm you. And when you walk through fire, you shall not be burned, and the flame will not consume you. For I am the Lord your God, the Holy One of Israel, your Saviour. In water, in rivers, in fire even, God is with us all the time. Now in that text, in Isaiah, we feel the energy. But actually it's easy to feel the energy, isn't it? When things are hopeful and good. See, that bit of Isaiah comes from a time when the exile was coming to an end. When all those people who'd been taken away from their homes and their land and had lived in a foreign place for 60 years under oppression, they were going to be released. They were going to be able to return back home. And those who could remember home were looking forward to it. And those who had grown up in exile had heard stories. And they were looking forward to it. And they knew it was coming. They knew that they were going to get back home. And so it was easy to believe for them that God was with them. In water, in rivers, in fire, nothing is going to stop us because God is with us. They felt that, didn't they? Powerful feeling. But it wasn't always like that. See, when they first went into exile, it didn't feel like God was close at all. It felt like God was far away. This is Psalm 137. By the rivers of Babylon we sat down there and we wept when you remembered Zion. On the willows we hung up our harps. For our captors asked us for songs, and our tormentors asked us for mirth, saying, sing us one of the songs of Zion. How could we sing the Lord's song in a foreign land? They didn't feel God was close, did they? They felt God was far away. Because they'd been used to going to the temple to worship and meeting with God. They'd been used to going to Jerusalem and gathering in great festal processions and seeing the sense of God among them. And they couldn't do it anymore. They couldn't go to the temple. They couldn't go to Jerusalem. They couldn't gather in that way. And they thought God had been left behind. That God wasn't with them. Actually, they're not the only ones who felt like that. I wonder how often you've had a chance to read through the Psalms. And some of the Psalms are wonderful, aren't they? They tell of God's glory and God's faithfulness. And some of them are quite disturbing. They tell us about how people felt about God's sense of absence. So Psalm 74 says this, "O God, why do you cast us off forever? Why does your anger smoke against the sheep of your pasture? How long, O God, will the foe stop? Psalm 89 says something similar. How long, O Lord? Will you hide yourself forever? How long will your wrath burn like fire? Remember how short my time is. For what emptiness have you created mortals? Who can live and not see death? Who can escape the power of Sheol? Lord, where is your steadfast love of old, by which your faithfulness was sworn to David? So you get some people in the Psalms who don't feel that God is close to them. They feel as if God's a long way away, as if God's forgotten them. One of the psalmists says, "Oh God, wake up! Wake up and come and help us." It's as if God's fallen asleep in that person's life, and is not listening, and is not active. They feel far away. Wake up, bestir yourself for my defense, for my cause, my God and my Lord. Vindicate me, O Lord my God, according to your righteousness, and do not let them rejoice over me. These people felt God was far away. And what about Psalm 22? Those terrible words that Jesus took and said from the cross. My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from helping me, from the words of my groaning? Oh my God, I cry by day, but you do not answer, by night, and I find no rest. You read the Psalms, you realize that many people in those writings do not feel that God is close, do not feel that God is listening. God is far away. And actually you could say, couldn't you? You could say, well, that was the Old Testament. It's not like that in the New Testament. Once Jesus is here, God is with us all the time, people feel it all the time. That's not true, is it? We don't feel it all the time. And there's a long string of church history which tells us that some have felt the absence of God very deeply. Mother Teresa of Calcutta, person we all revere as one of the great saints of God, felt the absence of God for many years in her life. One famous nun, Teresa of Lisieux, said to her fellow nuns, if only you knew what darkness I am plunged into. These people didn't feel that God was with them all the time. So we're in a kind of difficult position, aren't we? Because on the one hand, we have a deep conviction, and the deep conviction is this, that God is with us. But on the other, we have the experience of many people who say, I don't feel as if God is close. I feel as if God's far away. I wonder if you felt that sometimes. Yeah, that God feels far away. I want to talk a little bit about that, and just note some of the things that kind of get in the way of sensing that God is present with us. And then I'll say something about what I think we need to do in response. So there are some things which kind of cloud out the sense that God is with us. And the first of these is when we face deep sadness, illness, loss, or grief. I got this little book recently. It's a book by someone called Eddie Askew, and it's called Walking into the Light. Actually, it's not by him. It's by his two daughters. It was put together after his death. It tells the story of Eddie, who for a time was head of the leprosy mission, wrote lots and lots of books, helped many people to find God's presence. How in his later life, his wife Barbara died. Quite painful situation, and then she died. And so it tells the story of going through illness and what came afterwards. And I was moved by the honesty of his journal. So there are extracts from his diary in this. And this is one of the things he said. You wake up one morning and you find your world has collapsed. Nothing has its usual meaning. You're adrift in uncertainty. Things, people, conditions which you have assumed are given constants are no longer valid, no longer to be taken for granted. You live in the day, exist would be more accurate, not daring, not able to look any further. That's how he felt. But a bit later he writes this. I find today I cannot believe in a loving God. I've been hovering on the brink of this for some time, not daring to face it. Preparing Barbara for bed, she was racked with a sudden heart-rending burst of deep sobbing tears. No reason, pure misery. If belief is to be restored, I need some reassurance. I'm deeply disturbed. What is all this about? Of course, he was going through a lot of pain. And then the pain moved into loss. And the deep loss of someone he'd loved for 14 years of his life. He felt that. And it was difficult in the midst of all that to feel the presence of God. I taught for a while in a theological college, so getting people ready for ministry. And it was wonderful because you see people grow in their confidence, in their preaching, in their skills, and then they go and serve the church as ministers. Janice came to us midway through her life, and she was from a working class community in Gateshead in Newcastle, and she brought great things, and she prepared and she blossomed, and I loved reading her papers. And then about 3 months before she was going to go to her first church, her first service, life came in on her. She said, I can't study, I can't prepare, I can't go to the circuit, I don't know what's happening to me. It's as if life is just caving in, and a great depression set upon her. And she said to me, I can't pray, I can't get close to God, I can't feel God's presence, I don't know what to do. And there were many reasons that contributed to that. But she got herself into a place she couldn't feel God's presence. There was deep sadness and deep loss and deep illness and other things in the background which had caused this. And she couldn't feel God's presence. About 7 years ago, my wife contracted a small bug. It was a bit like flu. She was shivery and shaky for a few days, and we put her to bed and kept her warm and got her drinks and gave her all the things that you do when you have flu. But she didn't come out of it. She became quite ill. She became very anxious. She became quite depressed. She couldn't sleep at night. She was awake, fearful. Whatever had happened in her system, whatever bug had got in, this was all happening now. You have to know, my wife is the most stable, most gentle, most ordinary kind of person who isn't up and down, always the same. This was new territory for us. There we were awake in the middle of the night, wondering what on earth was going on, and my wife said, I can't feel God. I don't know where God is now. And of course that was because there was illness. Sadness, illness, loss, depression often can kind of in a way get in the way, can't you? I know the plans, you know that experience. So that's one thing we recognise. Another is when we're in a strange and different place. One of the reasons that all those Israelites in the exile couldn't sing God's song was because they were in a strange land. It didn't look like Israel, had no temple. It wasn't the way that it was. It was a foreign experience, a different culture. They couldn't sense God's presence. there's a wonderful moment that if you're kind of looking for some good bit of Bible study, read the beginning of the prophet Ezekiel, because it's weird and it's really strange. It gives you a vision, and it tells you that Ezekiel was looking out, and there were the storm clouds, and suddenly out of the clouds came this incredible thing with angels and wheels, and all the wheels moved in different directions, and the angels were carrying on their shoulders a dome, and on the top of the dome there was a throne, and it was moving around, and it's really strange. And there are some people who think that Ezekiel was on drugs. But actually, if you stay with it and you look at that, and then you look back into other parts of the Old Testament, you notice two things. The first is that the description he gives of God is exactly the same as that given of God in Isaiah 6. When Isaiah goes to the temple and sees the Lord lifted up, and there the angels, the angelic, with two wings covering their faces and two wings covering their feet, and two wings flying, carrying above them the sense of the Ark of the Covenant. And the Ark of the Covenant of God was a sign of God's presence, and that was held above the cherubim and held in the temple in that way. So when Isaiah sees it in the temple, it's a wonderful picture of God's presence. And when Ezekiel sees it, the only difference is it's now got wheels, and the wheels move in all directions. So what we've got is the Ark of the Covenant on wheels. And that's the point that Ezekiel is making to those who are in exile. That God's presence isn't back there in the temple in Israel, it's here. It's on wheels, it's come. God's presence is with us because they couldn't see it. They were in a strange land. They didn't know how to recognize God's presence. You've heard the story this morning of your fellowship at its growth. If we just go back a little bit further, to 1948, when a ship called the Empire Windrush arrived in this country of Tilbury. It came from the Caribbean. It brought many people from the Caribbean to the United Kingdom. We in the United Kingdom were needing people to do work in this country. We didn't have enough for the jobs that were around, and so people from the Caribbean were invited, and many of them came with great enthusiasm. They wanted to give to the economy here. They wanted to be able to give to their families in the Caribbean. They wanted to come to the British Methodist Church, many of them because they were Methodist and because they discovered God in the Methodist communities in the Caribbean. And when they came, they had a really hard experience. I don't know if it's been yours. But they were discriminated against. They weren't allowed housing. They were called terrible names. And even in the churches where they had gone believing God would be there with God's people, they were treated badly. And they had a big choice at that point, as you partly heard a few minutes ago. What do you do when the church doesn't welcome you? When it doesn't look as if God is there for you in the place you expect God to be? What do you do? And some of them started their own churches. And I understand entirely why that was. And some of them tried to integrate into the British Methodist churches and the Anglican churches and the Baptist churches, and they put up with all the things that were said and done and the way they were marginalised in order to carry on being Christian. And some people lost their sense of God altogether. They gave up because we're in a strange land. They couldn't recognise God. And sometimes when you're in a strange land and when you're in an unfamiliar place, you can lose sight of God. Okay, I'm going to move on. Except, I'll just do this next story. Do you know a story, an American story really, called about Rip Van Winkle? Do you know this story? Yeah, this is a story that was by Washington Irving, and he told the story of a man during the American War of Independence, who was a great storyteller, very popular with children, and loved his community and so on. That's kind of background. And he went off into the hills one day, and there he drank some stuff, and he went to sleep for 40 years. And when he woke up, of course, the landscape was different. When he went back to his home, his wife had died. His son had grown up. People didn't know him anymore. The people who'd been children were adults and leaving the community. He didn't recognize it anymore. Actually, he was in a strange place, even though it was his home place. Now, actually, I need to tell you that in the British Methodist Church, that's the experience of many people who have lived here for the whole of their lives and their parents and so on. Many British people think that they're in their own place, but it's strange. And I don't mean because of that, because we become an international community, that's an enrichment. I mean that they're in a culture which isn't the same as when they started to grow up. So they come to a Methodist church and they sing the hymns that they sang 50 years ago. And they like the preaching that they heard 50 years ago and sometimes forget it. And but they're living in a different culture now. We're in a culture where the internet has changed things, where social media now is dominant, where the media portray the church as a bit odd, a bit quirky. And if you see things on television about ministers, they're usually how odd they are, occasionally Methodist on the whole. And so religion has been pushed to the edge. When they were children, that wasn't the case. But now it is. They are beginning to wake up in this place and not know it. That's why God is giving people from all sorts of places like yourselves within the church. So anyway, that's two reasons. Let's just take a third. When things seem a bit overwhelming, that's also when God feels absent, when you can't get close to God. So we don't know what to do about climate change, do we? We know we've got to do something. But the more you look at this, the more you read this stuff, the more you realise how complicated, complex it is. And we could be overwhelmed. It could be that if we don't hold the temperature of our planet within 2 degrees, probably within 1.5, if we don't hold it there within the next 20 years, islands will just be washed over. People will lose their homes. It will be a catastrophe. The temperature may rise to such levels that it will begin to destroy what we know of the earth. It's very big, and we don't know quite what to do. And one kind of response to that is to say, well, I don't know anything, I can't do anything, I'll just kind of hide my head away. And in the face of much science that has evolved in the last couple of 100 years, the church has sometimes been very defensive and very critical and very unconvinced, and now finds itself in a place where it's a bit unsure how to engage now, because people don't talk about faith in public discourse very much. They talk about science, but not faith. People sometimes are overwhelmed and think, well, the media, the science community, they don't have any space for Christian faith. Maybe God's left it. Sometimes when the challenges are large, we feel God is absent. But let's not forget too that one of the reasons God is absent is when we've chosen to go our own way, when we choose to do our own thing, when we are locked, as it were, in our own sinfulness and selfishness. And the story of that is all through the Bible. So there's King David, somebody who's after the heart of God, somebody who takes the throne of Israel and with God's blessing. What does he do? He spots a woman on the next door house, and she looks rather nice, and he thinks, I'll have her. So he sends for her, and they're intimate together. And then they discover she's going to have a baby. And, oh, this is a bit difficult because she's married and her husband's in the way in the war. So what are we going to do about this? So David has a great plan. He decides that her husband will be sent to the front line of the war so that he can be killed. And he is. So David, through his own selfishness and lust and power, does things that push God away. But it's not till Nathan comes and tells him a parable that he realizes that he's even in that place. But he's far away from God because he's been focused on his own selfishness, his own interests. And that happens again and again, doesn't it? All the way through the Old Testament and into the New too. So when Ahab sees a vineyard that he thinks, oh, that's a great vineyard, I'd love to have that vineyard. He says to the person who owns it, Naboth, he says to him, I'll give you some money, you give me the vineyard. And Naboth says, no, I can't do that, because it's been in my family for years and years and years. Can't do that. I'm sorry, it's a nice offer, but I really want to hang on to it. So Ahab's a bit depressed because he can't get his own way. And his wife says to him, well, you realise you're the king of Israel, you can do what you like, just leave this to me. And so she sets up some people to accuse him and kill him, and Naboth is killed. And his vineyard is taken by the king of Israel. Now God feels far away. God doesn't feel close because he's caught in his own sin. And in the New Testament you could take Ananias and Sapphira. They're part of that early church community, very enthusiastic about being Christian. They've responded to Peter, they've become part of it, and because of this wonderful outpouring of the Spirit, people are being generous. They're selling their property, they're giving their money to the poor. It's a very generous community. And Ananias and Sapphira think, well, we want to be part of that too, so they sell, and they give some money to the apostles, but actually they keep a bit back. They keep a bit back. And it's not that it wasn't theirs. It's just they choose to deceive. They want to hang on to some security of their own, and so they miss God's presence. These are some of the reasons, aren't they, why we don't feel God's presence. When we're faced with illness and sickness and sadness, we're in a place that's unfamiliar, where the challenges are overwhelming, where we choose our own way, then we often feel God is far away. But let's just say, those don't cover everything. And sometimes it's inexplicable. Sometimes it is that God feels far away, but we don't know. It's not because of those reasons. We just don't know why, and that might be your experience. So here we are. We know that God is with us all the time. And we also know that there are times where we don't experience God's presence. So what are we going to do? And this is my suggestion, just for the last few minutes. We need certain things to remind us of the truth that God is with us all the time. So, 4 things that might be a help. The first is the way to remind ourselves that God is with us all the time is to live in the Scriptures. To immerse yourself in the Bible, to know God's story and to see the world from God's perspective. When I worked for a time in a learning centre for the Methodist Church, I got a letter. And the letter went like this. It said, we're just clearing out our uncle's house, and we found a Greek Bible. And we wonder whether you would like this Greek Bible. So I wrote back and said, yes, thank you very much. We'd love to have that Greek Bible. We have a little course which is Learn New Testament Greek. And a few people do this, and if you give this Bible to one of our students, they won't have to buy one. They'll have a Bible, and that would be great. So please do send it now. So 2 weeks later, a little package arrives. And I open it up, and inside is a Greek Bible. And I open the Bible, and I realise we can't give it to anyone. The reason for that is that on every page, you can't see it very well, this is a picture of it, but this is all around the margins there. Oops, down the margins there, you'll see, and all across the text, it's written. Somebody's written all over it. Now actually, I'm not exaggerating, it's the same on every single page. Every single page is like that. I realise we couldn't do it translate. But the letter that came with it was wonderful. It said this. It said, our uncle left school when he was 11. He'd just done primary education. He could just read and write. And he went to work on the railways. And he became a signalman on the railways. And he also became a Christian. And he became a preacher in the Methodist church. And in order to be the best preacher he could be, he taught himself New Testament Greek. Now I thought that was part of our mythology, but it's not. There are people who have done that. And he clearly lived out of his Bible from beginning to end, because he'd obviously gone through it again and again and again and again. And he was living inside the story of Jesus Christ, living inside the scriptures. One of the ways we discover and remind ourselves that God is with us all the time is to live in the scriptures. We mentioned the Psalms a lot, didn't we? At the beginning. If you read through the Psalms, you realise that every emotion that is a human experience is in the Psalm. Anger and frustration and loneliness and depression and joy and sorrow, they're all in there. And if you read your way through, you realise that whatever condition you're in, you can go and talk to God. Eddie Askew says in his diary, it was really difficult to believe in God, so I went to God to tell him how angry I was. That's the kind of God we've got. And that's witnessed to in the scriptures. So one way in which we remind ourselves is to live in the scriptures. The second way is to be meeting with God's people. One of the best ways to be reminded that God is with us is to be in a community like this. Singing, praising, helping, listening, talking, studying together, to be amongst God's people. The writer to the Hebrews says, don't neglect to meet, as is the pattern of some. Don't neglect to meet. What he means is, he doesn't mean have a meeting for the sake of a meeting. Actually, it's one of the big problems in Methodism, isn't it? So one of the big problems in Methodism is, if we're going to do something, you have to have a meeting, and then another meeting, and so on. We have a lot of meetings. Have you been to a few? You've been to a few? Yeah. Okay, well, that's not what he meant. That's not what he meant. The writer meant this. Meet each other at a deep level. Meet each other as brothers and sisters in Christ. Meet each other so that you can share what you have, its joys, its sorrows, its gifts, its weaknesses, with each other, so that you're all stronger. That's what he meant. Don't give up that kind of meeting. Because being with God's people is the way in which we're reminded that God is with us all the time. And when you're with those people, you're carried. So when they're in a place where you can't pray, other people are praying. When you're in a place where you can't praise, other people are praising. When you're in a place where you don't know how to serve and to give, other people, you're part of a church that's going in a direction, the direction of Jesus Christ. I grabbed a day's holiday with my grandchildren. I have 3 grandchildren. One is 4 years old, one's 2-year-old, one's about 6 months old. And we went swimming. We went to a place on the west coast of Scotland where they had lots of rides and slides and fountains and all that kind of stuff. And the 4-year-old said, what's that over there, Grandad? So I said, well, that's the lazy river. Shall we go and find out what it's like? She said, what's that, a lazy river, Grandad? So I said, well, let's go find out. So we went over, and basically what it is there's a big kind of circular kind of area where the water goes round, and there's currents pushing it round like that. And so you go around, you can just be lazy, and it carries you around. So I said, let's go around. So she thought it was wonderful. We got to it, and I said, can you feel it? So it's wonderful, Grandad. We'll just be carried along like this. And so we went round and we had a lovely time. And she said, well, I think I want to get out. So I said, well, there's a little gap there. Why don't we try and just swim out there? So she started to swim, and the stuff carried around. So we went round again. So I said, try and get out again. So she said, oh. And it carried around again. But the point was that the current was carrying her around. Being with God's people is being in a place where sometimes we have to be carried by others. Where we're going in that direction. And even though we might feel in a place where God's far away, we don't sense God's presence, we feel very deeply that we're in a bad place, but the church can change. So reminding ourselves that God's with us is also about meeting with God's people. And it's also about going to the means of grace. This is a big thing for John Wesley. I know you're big John Wesley fans, aren't you? John Wesley, he said that you should go regularly to the means of grace. And what he meant by that were those things that were in the scriptures that tell you where God's grace will be met, like fasting and prayer and sharing Holy Communion and meeting together to share as God's people. Those are places, and you should do that often. And I kind of increasingly think that this is really quite important. Whether we feel like it or we don't feel like it, to attend to the means of grace. And I'll tell you why this became a deep conviction for me. It came from South Sudan. So when I was in Durham teaching, we had a bishop from South Sudan. And he came to do an MA with us. And he lived the whole of his life in the civil war in Sudan. The whole of his life. He couldn't remember when he hadn't been there. And he was a wonderful character. He was full of joy and full of stories and always made you laugh. And if I was in my room and I wanted to do something quickly, I had to look along the corridor to see whether he was there. Because if he was there and I didn't have a lot of time, I'd never get past him because it takes about 20 minutes for him to tell me something. And his face would beam up. Great huge smile, and it was wonderful. But when you got to know him well, you realise that underneath all that humour, all that joy in the Lord, there was deep pain. And he told me one time this. He said, in my back garden, there is a hole in the ground. And when the militias come, my family go and hide there, and I hide with them. We pull a stone over the top, and we hope the militias won't come. And when they're gone, and we come out, then we find out what's happened. And he said, almost always, there's a village over there, or a small hamlet over there, or a town over there, where women have been raped, where men have been raped, where children have been orphaned, where people are bloody and being abused. And he said, you know what we do? He said, we go to the village straight away. And he said, we try and find the deliverance, and we bury the dead, and we comfort those who are suffering. And then he said, you know what we do? He said, we put a table in the middle of the village, even when there's blood on the ground, and we put a white cloth on the table, and we put bread and wine in the middle of the table, and we celebrate Holy Communion. He said, we do that as a sign that God's love is deeper and stronger than the worst of our suffering and the worst of our agony. And God reaches down into human experience in order to show us that He is with us. And we do that in the middle of that community to declare that. It's wonderful. And every time I go to take bread and drink wine at communion, I think of Francis. Because he's now back in Sudan. He's a bishop there working in South Sudan for peace, for reconciliation, and still celebrating communion. So, reminders that God is with us. A reminder is living inside the scriptures. A reminder is being with God's people. A reminder is being present at the means of grace. And the last thing I want to say is this. There's often a reminder when we're in mission with God. Last week, the Vice President and I went to Bristol. We had a fantastic time. Who's from Bristol? Anybody from Bristol? Yay! We went to Bristol and we had a fantastic time in Bristol. And we went to a number of different things. But on the Saturday night, we went to Chippenham and we went out with the street pastors in Chippenham. And we had a great time with them. We were talking with people who were on the streets. We were talking to people who were in the pubs and the people who were on the doors, the minders and so on, and the police and so on. We were talking to all these people, and sometimes we were helping people who, the wheels had broken and we needed flip-flops, and sometimes we needed water, and sometimes we needed mottle, people who were on that kind of thing. And we were out there as Christians with the outside economy. One young woman around told me, she saw my dog collar. She said, are you with the street pastors? So I said, yes. She said, they're fantastic. She said, they helped my friend last week, and I think she would have been dead without them. And you know that those street pastors out there are doing something to share God's love with people who are in the right time. And when they're there, they're not getting people to go to church. They're not saying to them, look, if you come tomorrow to church, they don't do that. They just get alongside people and they show love and kindness. Their admiration is fantastic amongst those who are there. Everybody around waves to them and says, hi, street pastors, because they know they're there as representatives of the church, showing something of love. And the lovely thing was that as I was walking around with one of the people who was street pastors, she said to me, doing this has made me realize that God is here in this place. And quite often, when I'm working as a street pastor, I meet God in other people because God is with us all the time. So, it's the case. The deep conviction of our faith is that God is with us all the time. Jesus is Emmanuel, God with us. But we don't always feel it. Sometimes it feels far away. Sometimes we feel lonely and on our own. We feel as if God has abandoned us. That's a normal experience in Christian faith. But we need to remind ourselves of the truth that God is with us all the time. So we need to live in the scriptures, and we need to meet with God's people, and we need to visit those means of grace, and we need to be in mission because God meets us in all those places, and we are blessed. Amen. Someone want to start a song? I think that would be such a good